What's up, Commanders Nation? This is the Commanders Declassified podcast. I'm not even going to do the whole intro because we got stuff to talk about tonight. It's real. Signed, sealed, delivered. Eric Bieniemy is your offensive coordinator. You have upgraded from Scott Turner, and now you have the offensive coordinator from the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the brightest football minds in the league, according to a lot of folks. My guy has been one of the leading assistant coaches in the NFL for years. Now he's going to stand on his own too, and he's going to do it in DC. Ron Rivera caught the big fish. Okay, we suffered. We suffered through the Scott Turner era as offensive coordinator. How many points a game, Brian?
19, not even a full 20, 19 measly points a game.
Every year. Now we got a big dog.
Yeah.
Now we got a big dog. Now we got a guy with a resume longer than anything you'll find on LinkedIn, right? My guy has led the number one offense multiple times, top 5 offense almost every single year. He is our offensive coordinator now. Brian, how does it feel? Let me know.
It feels really, really good. This feels awesome. And, look, we were stuck with a really, really bad offensive coordinator. I know there's a lot of people out there who think Scott Turner is the next genius in waiting, but that genius didn't even get an interview to be a head coach or an offensive coordinator. He's a passing game coordinator right now. And we've had to suffer through a lot of his incompetence. How many times did we say he goes away from good plays? Well, this is not what Eric Bieniemy does. He finds nothing but good plays, and they stick with them, and they wear them out, and they make the defense adjust. So we've got somebody who is competent, who is good, who's experienced, and who's learned from the best. Andy Reid is one of the best offensive minds in football history. I mean, there's no two ways around that. And when you're that close in that proximity to that level of genius on the offensive side, you pick up things, you learn things. And we famously, I know I tweeted this or retweeted this out, those touchdowns that Patrick Mahomes threw that were wide open down the goal line. Eric spent all that time watching film and found that play. The Jags ran it early in the year against the Eagles, and the Eagles could never adjust to it. And he found it, and he called it, and those dudes were wide open in that little half motion where they faked like they were going in motion across the formation, stop, reverse field, and we're just wide open for touchdowns. That's the level of dedication. That's the level of detail we're getting in this offensive coordinator, and I couldn't be more happy. I couldn't be more ecstatic. So I'm excited for Eric Bieniemy to actually have his own show and see what that looks like. But for the 2023 season coming up now, I thought it was going to be a dud. It was going to be a lot of probably the same old stuff that we've seen. It's going to be different now, and that is 100% for certain. It will be different.
Make sure you are subscribed to this podcast on audio platforms, on YouTube. Go find the button right now. Subscribe, lock in. Here's the deal, Brian. People say, why Eric Bieniemy of all people, right? Because he can't get a job here and there and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. Because we're a run-first team whose running backs didn't get any touchdowns this year. That's why. We have had like 11 quarterbacks since Rivera's been here. I'm overstating that a little bit, but, we had the Fitzpatrick. We had the Wentz. We had the Alex Smith. We had Heineke. We had Sam Howell most recently. Kyle Allen. Oh my gosh, Kyle Allen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure I'm forgetting one that started a game or something here. None of them were successful. Not one. And you could say Alex Smith was successful. That running game was banging that year, right? The running game. Okay. Nobody was successful in Scott Turner's offense. And as a leader, if nobody's successful under your leadership, it's time to go.
That's it.
Right?
That's it. Yep.
He, being Eric Bieniemy, has led a successful offense every year.
Yep.
Now, naysayers. Well, he had Patrick Mahomes. Yes, he did. But Patrick Mahomes grew under his leadership, right or wrong?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely 100% true. He did grow. And Patrick has mentioned it multiple times that, hey, Bieniemy's tough on me, but he needed to be. And Patrick Mahomes knows that, and he's said that much, and he's grown. I mean, I don't know that there's anybody playing football better than Patrick Mahomes right now, and he had a absolute big role in that progression and development.
That's true, right? Now, wide receivers last year, Kansas City lost Tyreek Hill.
Ooh.
That's not a small loss.
No, that's a huge loss. He's excellent.
And they won a Super Bowl. They led the league in offense this year, I believe.
Yeah, they led the league in offense, and Patrick Mahomes had his best year statistically in terms of you lose a receiver like Tyreek Hill, who's almost uncoverable, right? He is so fast. His start and stop, his agility is just unmatched. And you take that weapon away, and all it did was make Patrick a better quarterback because now he had to go through and distribute the ball to other guys, to everybody, go through those reads, progressions, find those weak spots, soft spots in the defense. And he excelled, and he was awesome this year. I mean, the performance he put on in the Super Bowl was excellent.
What's the one thing you're most excited about with this hire?
The thing I'm excited about is probably the thing that people say is a negative about Bieniemy is that he's tough, he's hard. I'm somebody who is a firm believer. Football is a difficult sport, and it has to be difficult because it's hard to win. You're asking 11 guys to go out against another 11 guys and play perfect. And you can't accept anything less than the best from these players. And if you want to be a champion, if you want to get to where Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are, you have to demand excellence, and you have to be accountable, and you have to coach guys hard. And that's what Eric Bieniemy does. He will coach them hard, and he will get nothing less but perfection. How many times last year did we have drives ruined because of stupid penalties, false start, offsides, guys not knowing the snap count? You have to know the snap count. Come on. That's just unacceptable, especially when you're a team like ours that has no margin for error, right? That 19 points a game, you can't be making penalties on offense like that. This is something that he's going to come in and clean up and get rid of because, hey, if you want to have a good season, if you want to be good on offense, you can't shoot yourself in the foot with those dumb penalties. So I am happy that he's here. I want him to add some toughness to this offense. I want him to push guys. Rivera is kind of the grandfather, figure. He can be the nice one. He can be the easy one. But we definitely need an enforcer as our coaches. And I mean, Ellie, if you remember, at the end of the 2021 season, we did our coaches declassified. The two coaches who got an A were Pete Hainer and Matsko, and they're widely known as what? The two toughest coaches on the roster, and they managed to get the best production out of their guys. I think it's time that we get somebody who's a little bit tougher, a little bit more demanding, who understands the game and will put these guys in the right position, but also ask that they give everything that they've got to us.
Yeah, year one of Scott Turner. You guys remember it. 3 wide receivers in the same spot multiple times throughout the year. And you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Right? They cleaned it up a little bit the following year, but everything was lateral. That ball was going sideways nonstop. And you're like, okay, fix some things, but now we're just not going anywhere. Right?
Yep.
What you're getting from Bieniemy is a professional NFL offense. Is it going to look exactly like what Andy Reid did in Kansas City? No, he's going to put his own flavor on it. Yeah. Now, it's true. We don't know how much of that offense is Eric Bieniemy's design versus the Andy Reid system, but Eric Bieniemy is a fruit from the Andy Reid tree, okay? So the core structure of this offense is going to be based on what Kansas City and Philadelphia had done previous to Kansas City from an offensive perspective. And I think for me, what I'm excited about is the improvement in the screen game. We were not good in the screen game last year. We talked about it a lot on the podcast. We had games we didn't even run a screen pass.
The only screen pass I remember working is the one in Buffalo to Antonio Gibson that went 78 yards. That every other screen pass is like 2-yard gain, 4-yard loss, 2-yard gain. That's just unbelievable. It's a basic play in football. Like, we've got to be better at doing those things. And you're right. that is a huge staple. I mean, all those years that we watched Andy Reid in Philly with Brian Westbrook, that screen game was lethal then. So, that's a great thing to be looking forward to.
What one player benefits the most on offense from Bieniemy being in town?
Well, to me, it's the most obvious. It's going to be the quarterback. Whether we right now we think it's Sam Howell. They may sign somebody later, they may draft somebody, we don't know. But for right now, it's Sam Howell. And what did we hear all with Scott Turner? He doesn't adjust his system. He doesn't play to his player's strength. That won't be a problem moving forward. Bieniemy will be doing that. He'll be looking at things Sam Howell can do well. Whichever quarterback to be named later can do well, and he'll run those to death. He won't be asking the players to do things they're not good at. So it's really going to be the quarterback there. He's going to have a lot of easy throws for him to make. Quick passing game. How long have we been screaming for quick passing game? And in a league where you've got the Eagles who have a great pass rush, he is going to make sure that Sam gets the ball out of his hands quickly. So we don't have to worry about, 3, 4, 5 different pass rushers all killing the quarterback here with 7-step drops and things like that. So to me, it's the quarterback, whether it's Sam, hopefully it is whoever it turns out to be, draft pick or veteran. I think the quarterback's going to benefit the most.
I got 2 people. One of them's not even on the roster. I'll start with the first one that is.
All right. Who you got?
I think Brian Robinson Jr. benefits the most from this. Look at Kansas City's history of running backs under Eric Bieniemy, right?
That's true.
It's the plotting running backs that have really done the most in that offense.
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran a 4.60 40 time.
Woo.
Right?
Woo. Yeah.
They took him early. I think they took him in the first couple rounds. He might have been a first-round pick, right?
Was he a first? Yeah, maybe. I'll look it up. Keep going.
So the running backs, 32nd overall, last pick of the first round.
Yeah, there you go.
The running backs in his system don't need to be super dynamic in terms of running style because his system favors the pass anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So what they want running backs who can be effective in the carries that they get, right? But you're not going to get, unless they're up, you're not going to get like 5 straight carries, right? They're going to throw the ball a lot. Now, what do we see? Jonathan Williams last year, effective whenever he got in the game. Yep. He, to me, is a great fit for this system here. Maybe they bring him back. Let's hope they do. But you don't know because they got their own running backs, so on and so forth, that could come from Kansas City. But Brian Robinson Jr. last year converted, he was about 3.8 yards per carry, generally speaking, during the season last year. That's close to what the running backs in Kansas City did, but they did it in an effective way, right? And they didn't commit to the run, but they gave opportunities to running backs like Brian Robinson Jr., Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon in Kansas City last year had 9 touchdowns receiving last year, excuse me. So there's opportunity there for Gibson, potentially. The point I'm trying to make is he can take what Scott Turner failed to materialize here and turn it into a plus for us.
Yes.
A plus where Scott Turner was generating a net neutral or a net negative out of these assets.
It was almost like our offense had to fight the defense and also fight Scott Turner. It's like you can't do both, right? You can't be out there trying to compete against the defense and the offensive coordinator. And you're right. It will be a net plus with Bieniemy here because he is going to utilize and find the most effective ways to run the football. Now, the only thing I'd point out is Kansas City's offensive line is so good. They are so good. They gave up no sacks to the Philadelphia Eagles in that Super Bowl. So Ron has to upgrade that line, which I'm sure they talked about. I mean, they've been together, 3 days now in a row. So I'm sure that was probably priority number 1. You want me to do this? Cool, I'll do it. But I need 3 new starters on that offensive line because we need a center and we need 2 guards without question.
Right. And look, they had Pacheco last year. He came on at the end of the year. He took over as their primary back.
Yep.
He was a 4.37 40 guy, but he's not a super dynamic runner. That guy is like hair on fire runner,
Yeah.
right? He gets the ball, he's going crazy, right? Like straight ahead though. That's what Robinson is. Okay. That's what Jonathan Williams is. He's not going to juke you to death in the hole. They're coming at you. They're
Yeah.
going to bring everything they got. So hopefully, and I fully expect that Bieniemy will deploy our running backs appropriately.
Oh yeah.
We talked about this on the Scott Turner podcast. It's misuse of resources.
Yeah.
He didn't know how to deploy anything. Curtis Samuel, I don't know what his future is, right? There's an out in his contract this year. Can Bieniemy find a way to use him? I don't know. We got Terry McLaurin. You know he's going to do his thing, right?
Let
We
me
got yeah,
let me ask you, Curtis Samuel. Do you want Curtis Samuel back? Because for me, I feel like Curtis Samuel is holding a player like Gibson back because Curtis Samuel can catch, can run. Well, that's what Gibson is, and I don't, I think Gibson can give you more than what Samuel can give you in terms of both running and catching. And I think if they cut him, save the cap space, and let Gibson kind of take that role, rushing, receiving, and I think he'll grow so much better.
so I think Curtis Samuel and the Scott Turner offense holds a player like Gibson back. I think Curtis Samuel
Yeah,
in a normal offense doesn't do that because
yeah,
they
he's just
use
a small
him
wide
differently.
receiver. Yeah,
Do I want him back? Yes, because of the fact that we went so many years without weapons at the receiver position. I'm a little scarred. You know what I mean? So I
yeah,
want anybody who can play to be on the roster. But I think in the Kansas City offense, and I know some folks are going to laugh, I think Curtis Samuel holds a guy like De'Ami Brown back, right? Because you're going to have
yeah.
Dotson on the field. He's your number 1/1A receiver. Terry McLaurin's going to be out there, right?
Yep.
You need your deep threat guy. That's Dotson. Now, what's Curtis Samuel's role going to be, right, in this kind of offense? I mean, if we look at what they deployed last year in Kansas City, I guess you could go a guy like what's my guy's name, Kadarius Toney, that they had in the Super Bowl, but he didn't play all that much, right? Um, it's like so. Like look at the receivers last year in Kansas City, at least the impactful ones, right? Yeah, McCole Hardman. When you think of Hardman, he's a guy that takes a short reception and houses it, right? He's super
Yeah.
athletic, but he's
He's
really
extremely
fast.
fast. Yeah, he's extremely fast, and he is. You're exactly right. Catch something short and take it to the house.
But he's not the wiggle guy though, like Curtis Samuel is. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know if we have that guy on this roster
It,
to
what What's funny is Kansas City drafted a guy, Sky Moore, to be that wiggle guy, to almost be like a Tyreek. He didn't get on the field that much this year. He had a couple of opportunities, but that's how deep they were. They didn't even get to Sky Moore. But yeah, you're right that wiggle type guy. I think that's probably that may be the Jahan Dotson guy, right? Like that may be Jahan
That's
Dotson.
yeah, exactly right. That's what I'm thinking. I think, your guy like and of course they had Juju Smith Schuster, but I mean it's Juju. I'm not a big Juju guy.
No.
Marquez Valdez Scantling. That's where I see this Diami role in this offense,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
With that type of guy, and then you got, but you're spot on. Like you got Jahan Dotson to facilitate that role. You got Terry. Those are the three to me, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what he can bring out. Now, the big hole in the offense for this Bieniemy system is what, Brian?
It's tight end. We don't
Terry?
have anything. We don't have anything close to resembling a Travis Kelsey. Now, hey, that's hard to do, right? He's one of one. There's only a couple of guys who can do what he does. So, but we need some competency out of that position. But also, I just don't think Scott Turner really tried to utilize the tight end. I mean, we rarely targeted them, and when we did target them, they were difficult throws, difficult catches, and our tight ends were injured and they were out of the lineup. And we asked tight ends who were receivers who never blocked a day in their life, we asked them to run block. So there was, again, same thing with the running backs, like you talked about, mismanagement of the position and of the talent. And again, I think this is something Bieniemy will be able to clean up. Is he going to are we going to draft a Travis Kelsey type? There's a couple of guys in the draft that, people are really high on. I don't know, but certainly we've got to get better production there.
Yeah, everybody on social media says Mike Gesicki, Mike Gesicki, Mike
Uh,
Gesicki.
uh,
That guy is going to cost a ton of money.
Yeah, no.
Ton of money. What I think is at 16, you're in play for that Notre Dame tight end, right? Michael Meyer.
Yeah, he'll probably be there. Yeah.
6'4", 265. He's not really the Kelsey type, though, right? He's more of like the kid from Detroit that went to Minnesota. Who am I thinking about?
Hawkinson.
Yeah,
Yeah, the former Iowa tight end. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they should even go first round tight end. I mean, look, having a Travis Kelsey type player would be awesome. But you know what? Having a top 5 offensive line like Kansas City did would be better. I'm going tackle or guard or something like that in the first round. As long as you can get the guys that we have healthy, I think they can be serviceable. I don't know what they do with Logan Thomas if they bring him back. But I like what we saw out of Armani Rogers. He got to get healthy though. He's got to stay healthy.
As a depth option, though, I don't think I'm at the point where I'm like Armani Rogers is tight end 1 yet.
No. But I definitely don't think it would be smart to spend a first round pick on a tight end when we've got 3 offensive line spots that are all in need of upgrade.
So let's go back to the quarterback situation, and then I want to get to sort of how this whole thing came together for Bieniemy. But
yeah,
the quarterback position is such an intriguing thing, and we'll know about where this is going to go really soon, because once the contract gets signed, and then the other information comes out, right?
Yeah.
Then the stuff will come out about, okay, well, they agreed to it based on these conditions, right? He has a 2-year deal. What I'm a little surprised about is that none of the local guys, John Kimes or JP Finley, have said, we're hearing it's going to be Howell or whatever. At this point, we have to assume it's Sam Howell as his quarterback, right? He came into the situation knowing that Sam Howell is his guy. However, if you're the caliber of coordinator that Eric Bieniemy is, right, and Ron's saying, hey, you get to choose your staff, right? You get a 2-year deal. You're an associate head coach or assistant head coach, one of the two. I forget what it is, but you got that title.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to believe that Ron Rivera said, but as a condition, the only quarterback you can even think about is Sam Howell. That's it. I'm not saying that he's not the guy, and I'm not saying that Eric Bieniemy doesn't want to coach Howell. Maybe he does. I just find it really weird. It would not fit with the rest of the narrative around this hiring if he dictated to him who his quarterback could be. That's it.
Yeah, no, and that's completely reasonable. And I've heard the same thing, right? We've seen it all over social media. Why would he leave Patrick Mahomes to come here to the quarterback situation we have here? Well, first off, you're not going to find another Patrick Mahomes, right? There's not any other teams out there with Patrick Mahomes on there. There are teams out there with good players, with good quarterbacks, sure, but you're not going to come to another situation and have Patrick Mahomes. So, once you leave Kansas City, you know that you're leaving Patrick Mahomes, and you're not going to find that again. The other thing is, for me, when I looked at this whole process, once Scott Turner got fired, people were throwing out all kinds of names for offensive coordinator and this and that. I think I was in the same boat. I didn't think that Bieniemy was a realistic choice here. I was like, he's going to have options, or he'll stay in Kansas City, whatever. That's not real. We're going to end up with Zampese or something like that. I think that's exactly what I said. But as we started to get closer and closer and further down the line, Bieniemy's name kept coming back up. And I thought to myself, man, I gotta relook at this situation here. And I kept hearing everybody say, Bieniemy's motivation is quarterback, it's job stability. And I'm like, those are specific reasons. Quarterback is a specific reason. Job stability is a specific reason, but both of those are subjective. And to me, they mean one thing. To you, they mean a completely different thing. To somebody else, something else as well. And I thought to myself, what do we know about Eric Bieniemy? What do we know 100% true about Eric Bieniemy? He wants to be a head coach. He's interviewed at least 18 times to be a head coach. Now, that's not 18 times with 18 different teams. Sometimes with a team, you have 3 interviews, right? You make it to the final round, so you have multiple interviews. but he's interviewed 18 times to be a head coach. That means you want to do that. You don't go and interview that many times and you don't want to be a head coach. That tells me that's his dream. That's his goal. That's his ambition. That's his desire to be a head coach, because deep down he believes he can do it and he can do the job better than the next guy. So if that to me is his motivation, if I go to a place like Baltimore, they already got a former MVP in Lamar. If Lamar plays well, it's just Lamar. You got an amazing quarterback. He gets no credit there. It's a great organization. He didn't do anything. Some of these other places, they all these other situations that were out there, they all had flaws. They all had issues. And I look at ours. What does national media think about our place? They think that there's incompetence here, there's drama, and we can never get right. If just imagine this: if you want to be a head coach and that's your goal, that's your drive, and you come here and you make Sam Howell competent, decent. I'm not even talking about he needs to be a Pro Bowler. I'm just saying he's competent. He gets the ball out of his hands. He doesn't make too many dumb mistakes, and he's good. Wow, guess what? You rewrite the narrative. You write your own ticket to be a head coach now, because everyone will be like, wow, he just turned water into wine here in DC. And if it fails, there's no bad side to it, because, hey, it's DC. It was already screwed up before Eric got here, and they're going to have a new owner. There's not much he could work with or anything like that. So to me, I that's how I looked at it, why he would take this position and why he would say, okay, I'll agree to work with Sam Howell. And again, he may like him, he may not, but I think it's more about where he wants to be as so much specifically the player, because we make big decisions like this based on multiple of reasons, not just quarterback and job stability. I think those are singular reasons, but there's more at play.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, and imagine this too, because what you said is very real. And Patrick Mahomes has said this himself. He's a very, very very hard coach, right? He's very hard on the quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Lamar at this point, with all he's accomplished, a new coordinator coming in, trying to be really hard on Lamar, how's that going to work out, right?
It's not going to work there, or definitely not with Kyler in Arizona, which was another place talked about wanting him to go there.
But it would work with a Sam Howell type, right?
Yeah.
Who's still fighting for his NFL life.
Yeah.
So there's another layer to this could make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because he can coach his way with this quarterback. And if it doesn't work, but he's proven enough from an offensive system perspective, in other words, if he can shift the blame to Howell, if it doesn't work, he gets another shot at picking his guy next year, right?
Exactly.
Now,
and that guy could be Caleb Williams, who people are already calling Baby Mahomes, or Drake May, where people are calling Justin Herbert. So that
Sanders,
would be
KJ Jefferson. I mean, next year the class is so freaking loaded. It's loaded.
Yep.
But what we got to see right now from Eric Bieniemy, Brian, is what? What does Eric Bieniemy have to show us this year?
He's got to show us all the things that we thought about Scott Turner were true. Because if he comes in here and he puts up a similar type offense to what Scott Turner was, then Scott Turner was the one who was right. Scott Turner was the one who was doing everything that he could, and he just got saddled with crappy quarterbacks and things like that. And then all those things that we thought about Scott Turner, now we're going to have to think it about Eric Bieniemy. So he's really got to prove all those things. Hey, if you find a good play, stick with it. Please have a quick passing game. We talked about that ad nauseum for the last couple of years, that there was never a quick passing game. You mentioned the screen game, non-existent. And if we did run it, it never worked. Maybe some run plays out of different formations that the defense doesn't already see coming. So if he does those things, again, he doesn't have to have a top 5 offense. Get us to 15th, get us to 13th. That would put us outside the top 10. That would be a huge improvement from being in the late 20s where we were.
Yeah. I think he just has to show that he has an offensive system that can work. No longer, John Kine put out something today that, yes, he didn't really call plays in Kansas City. I can't validate that. I can't invalidate it. Okay. But what I do know is his behind will be calling plays here in DC. Yeah. So we're going to find out. You will know for sure, one way or another, about this man and his ability to call plays and lead an offense in the NFL. Bar none. It's happening this year. By the way, he looks a little bit like Jadakiss from the Locks. If you look at it the right way, you see the picture behind me. Just saying. Anyway, if
Wait,
you haven't
you did
subscribed
my man
already,
Jadakiss like that? That's messed up. You did my guy Jadakiss like that?
or whatever he says, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. Let's talk about how this all came together. Okay. So they have been courting each other. We knew that they wanted to set up an interview with Bieniemy all throughout the playoffs, but his team kept winning, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But his team kept winning. So all along, there's no hire made for a coordinator. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, something's up, right?
Exactly.
Because you're interviewing these guys, Thomas Brown, London from Atlanta, Zampezi in-house. And you're
Shermer,
thinking, Shermer, you're like, okay, they really want Bieniemy, right? Because they're not hiring anybody until they get a chance to talk to them. You're like, okay, Greg Roman comes out. You're like, okay, maybe Greg Roman. But Greg Roman had his flaws, you know?
Yeah, well, the thing about Greg Roman is at the time when he resigned or he was released in Baltimore, it was thought that he was going to be a hot candidate because he's had good offenses. I mean, he always has a top rushing offense wherever he's been. And that market never materialized for Greg Roman. I mean, he didn't go on any interviews. And I think why we saw him interview earlier this week, or maybe it was last week that he interviewed with the Commanders, I think he saw the writing on the wall was that all these OC jobs started getting taken, and he wasn't getting any calls. So, yeah, that was interesting to see how his market really just kind of evaporated because he was talked about as a top choice.
But he fit what Hurney and Rivera said they wanted to do. Greg Roman did. Yeah. He's almost a purely running offensive coordinator, right? That's his specialty. So I thought it was interesting they didn't go in that direction. But at any rate, Eric Bieniemy comes to town, right? You started seeing the reports. Oh, they're going out to dinner the night before. Oh, they're meeting the next day. And it felt like, and I heard this on the radio with Doc Walker and Scott Jackson on ESPN 980. By the way, check out their show. Great stuff. Friends of the podcast, both of them.
Yes.
But it felt like the old days when we got a high-priced, high-dollar free agent coming in the building, right?
That's it.
And it didn't entirely make sense for an offensive coordinator to get that kind of treatment, right? A 3-day negotiation, effectively.
Yeah.
But here we are, especially when there weren't really any other teams left to hire Bieniemy. But it's like, okay, well, we're serious about it nonetheless. Now, where it really got interesting was the report that Dan Snyder flew out Jason Wright to help close the deal. Yeah. And you're like, wait a minute. Why would an owner on the way out participate in a deal closure for an offensive coordinator nonetheless for a team that's expected to be sold in 2 months?
Yeah. Now, did he participate in there? I read it as he allowed them to use his plane to fly Jason out there. Like he wasn't in the meeting. Is that
no, not in the meeting? Not in the meeting. Okay. But he's not letting Jason Wright use Redskins 1, Commanders 1, whatever it is now.
Right.
If he's not interested in doing the deal, because he's still cutting the checks, right or wrong.
No, absolutely.
So he has interest in doing this deal. Yeah. And I'm going to put I'm not a tinfoil hat guy ever, but I'm going to put it on right now. Okay, so roll with me here, Brian, and everybody listening.
Let's do it.
Okay, the current owner, who won't be the owner in 2 months, fingers crossed, participates in the hiring of an offensive coordinator. Unprecedented, right? Generally speaking, owners don't participate in offensive coordinator hirings in general. That's the head coach, GM, etc.
Yep.
He participated in some way. He supplied a vehicle to get a specific person from the organization who had geographical ties to the person we were trying to land, right? Now, so my mind says, okay, let me think about this. Is it possible that the potential new owner is a fan of Bieniemy? And Snyder knows that. So we know the Harris Group visited the facility, right?
Yep.
We know, as you told me before we started this podcast, we know that other ownership groups were reaching out, and it could have been Harris, were reaching out to Sean Payton.
Yep.
Is it possible that Eric Bieniemy was handpicked by the next owner, right?
Absolutely. Well, I don't think that's tinfoil at all. I think that's a very reasonable hypothesis, because think about this. We've heard that late March, right, is the owners meeting, and that's when they want to vote on this deal and have it done. Well, we're a couple of weeks out. I mean, we're not far from that time, so they probably have an idea of a new owner already, and we just aren't filled in just yet. So yeah, hey, that's a great idea. I don't think you're very far off from that being a potential reality.
Don't encourage my nonsense, Brian. I'm gonna take my tinfoil hat off. I'm gonna take it off. But
I like
somebody in the comments has got to tell me why an owner would give a rat's butt about an offensive coordinator for a team he's not going to be a part of in 2 months.
Here's something else to support your hypothesis, your idea, your theory. Dan Snyder wasn't at the Sonny Jurgensen jersey commemoration or whatever in that last game, the Hogs celebration, or where they released the Major Tutty thing. He wasn't anywhere to be seen, and it's been widely known that Dan has always been a fan of Sonny. So for him to not be at that, but then to all of a sudden come back in and, like you said, help facilitate a move that would help bring this guy in, I think there's a little bit more to it. I think you're right. I think you're onto something.
All right. Now, if you're listening to watch, forgive me. I just want to go down that route. It may or may not be true, but it was just you put the pieces together. And I know that's dangerous, right? But I did it. Now,
that's the fun part.
Look, we play in a division with the Dallas Cowboys. They have a terrific defense, an opportunistic defense, right? They also have an offense that tends to put up points. We play in a division with the Philadelphia Eagles. Went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. They put up points. Their defense is great. Not in the second half of the Super Bowl, but their defense is really good. And then we got the Giants, who have Brian Daboll, one of the brightest offensive minds in the last 5 years to be in the league, right? And their defense is good. By the way, I saw they might pay Saquon Barkley $45 million, $12 million a year or something like that. Please do that. But anyway, the fact of the matter is we can no longer get by, not that we ever could, but we definitely won't be able to get by anymore in this division with 19 points a game.
No.
This is a move that had to be made, period. Now, I just have a feeling that Eric Bieniemy is not going to settle for backup quarterbacks for the next 2 years. I'm not including Howell in that, Brian. I know what you're thinking. I'm not including Howell in that, okay?
Sorry.
But I mean the Kyle Allens, the Taylor Heineke's. God bless Taylor Heineke. I don't think that Eric Bieniemy would run him out there as a starter for any extended period of time because Eric Bieniemy has a lot on the line. So at this point, I feel like it's Eric Bieniemy believes in Howell, or Eric Bieniemy is going to go make another move to get somebody he does believe in. I don't think it's a regurgitation of what we had last year at the position. That's just me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Heineke has played his last. Unless he's on another team that's coming here to visit and to play us, I don't think he's going to be playing at FedEx anymore. I think you're absolutely right. They're going to go get a veteran, backup veteran, whoever, to compete with Hal. Whether it's Brissett, whether it's Chase Daniel, who Bieniemy has experience with and he knows his system. Whoever that may be, he's going to get somebody. And I think they'll draft somebody. I don't think it'll be early. I think it'll be probably mid-rounds, late round. They'll draft another guy because I think they're going to have 3 on the roster. Going into this year. But you're right. He's going to go and get, Ron's already said it. He's going to bring in somebody. So who that will be, we'll see here shortly.
And if you're just tuning in or somehow you fast forwarded to this point, Eric Bieniemy is the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator for 2023 and
Hey,
2024.
let's go back a second. You were talking about how all this came together. I think something that a lot of people aren't mentioning, or maybe they have, but I don't think is getting enough, spotlight or attention, is this really, I think, was in the works for some time. And Ron is never if he's shown us anything, he likes working with people he knows, or he has a connection to, or he has some type of relationship to. Does he have a relationship with Eric Bieniemy? No. But what he does have is a connection with a shared person, and that is Andy Reid. Ron has said Andy Reid is somebody who, he's a mentor to him, right? Andy Reid gave him a job and was on his coaching staff for a long time. And, Rivera looks up to him and talks with him frequently. And for Bieniemy, I have to imagine for him to even, consider coming here, listening to Ron, he had a conversation with Andy Reid, like, hey, Coach Rivera really well. Like, what am I walking into here? So I got to imagine there was some discussion with Rivera and Reid at some point, during the season, maybe after the season, about Eric Bieniemy and his future and chances of getting him to come to Washington, because it just, knowing Ron and how he likes to work with people he knows or has a connection to, it just, it would make sense if all the signs point to that there was some type of planning behind the scenes that was going on here.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is not a happenstance hiring.
Yeah, no, there's no way, because we've all seen Ron hire people that he knows, and it would have been a Pat Shurmur or Pat Shurmur. They all served on the same staff under with the Eagles back in the day. Like, they all were on the same staff. So I think that he would have gone that way if not for this relationship here.
I'm gonna read the Adam Schefter tweet. Deal is complete and official. Washington has given Eric Bieniemy the title of assistant head coach and offensive coordinator. By the way,
Love it.
Brian told me today Doc Walker read my tweet on the air.
He did.
Juxtaposing this very thing, that maybe the contract negotiation was taking so long because of the title aspect of this. And the QB was the other one. And here we are. Now, it is, in the words of one source, per Schefter, a promotion in title, contractual structure, multi-year, and an annual pay raise. Now, I believe Bieniemy was set to make about $2.5 million with the Chiefs, if I'm correct on that.
Yeah.
Tom Pelissero says Kansas City wanted him back, but Bieniemy got an upgraded title, a chance to build his staff. That is key. You were pointing to that, and a big commitment. Now, let's talk about this big commitment.
Yeah.
Because how can an organization that can't guarantee who the coach is going to be next year because of an ownership group be giving big commitments out? Brian, I don't know what else to say other than I think these folks know he's going to be here next year in some form or fashion. He being Bieniemy.
I think they know Bieniemy may be here. I don't think they know that Ron will be here.
I'm talking about Bieniemy.
Yeah, I think Bieniemy may be here in 2024. I'm not sure about old Riverboat. So it is interesting on what this big commitment will be, and I'm certain. There are things contractually that you can put into his contract that when the new owner, is, he has to abide by, right? Or else you'll be in penalty of that said contract, and you'll have to pay out, whatever it may be. So he may have, a clause in his contract that says, while he's OC, that if Rivera is removed early or midseason, he becomes interim, and or if Rivera is, fired after the season, that he is, first in line to interview for the job or something like that. So I can see something along those lines being built into his contract, at which point, whoever the new owner is, once they sign on the dotted line, they assume the responsibility of fulfilling that contract. Again, outside of an additional penalty, which is violate that clause, then you have to pay an extra $4 or $5 million, $10 million, whatever the case may
Right.
be. So I absolutely think you're right. I think that's probably what they had to put in there to get him to come and say, hey, this is more than just a 1 year audition. You'll be here even if I'm not here. In terms of Rivera saying that to him.
Exactly. Okay. What I keep looking for is definitive statements about the quarterback position. I'm checking the local beat reporters. Pete Haley says Eric Bieniemy, of course, is just the beginning for the Commanders' offense. He can't save it alone. O-line has to be rebuilt, and someone, Howell or another guy, has to play quality QB. Still a sweet hire, though. I really think that in the next 48 hours, we're going to have a lot better insight into what our future quarterback plans are. By inference by somebody, I don't think it'll be like a direct, the Commanders are going to go with Sam Howell all the way or something like that. But I think maybe something this hire give Sam Howell a great coordinator for the next year, or something along the lines of this hire opens the door for the quarterback position, something like that. That's what I would expect to hear in the next 48 hours. That's, it's a big point because it really can dictate his success here. And if he's confident enough in Sam Howell to hitch his wagons to Sam Howell, then I think you got to feel pretty good about Sam Howell's capabilities here.
Yeah, I think I think we saw at the end of the season when Rivera said, I've got to get with the Snyders about the budget. That there is a budget, right? The big quarterback contract, fully guaranteed 100 plus, 150 million plus type deals aren't probably going to happen. And I think that's true, right? Even, bringing Bieniemy in is a big move. He's a coach. He's an offensive coordinator, right? We're talking about $3.5 million, $4.5 million. And it also doesn't affect the salary cap. So, I still think that that's a very real thing, right? We're not going to see a Derek Carr coming here for 30 plus million a year. There's certainly not Aaron Rodgers. He's making like 50 million this year. If Aaron Rodgers comes here making 50 million a year, you and I are going to have to play offensive line because they're not going to have any money to sign anybody else out there. This to me, this is like what I was like. I said, Brian Robinson is going to get a lot more run this year than people are expecting. And I don't think people are ready for it. I don't think people are ready for the fact that it may just be Sam Howell, and it may just be Jacoby Brissett, and it may just be some rookie in the 6th round that nobody's ever heard of that is on our roster. And not because it's choice, right? Like, I'm sure Ron would love to go and trade for, or I guess you don't have to trade for Derek Carr now. You just sign him. I'm sure he'd love to go do that, right? That's another Carson Wentz right there for him. He loves his retread vet QBs. But it's very hard for me to see other realistic options. Maybe like a Baker Mayfield. I think he's a free agent. He's somebody who's certainly got starting experience and can be a starter. He's a former first round pick. That could certainly be a possibility. And with him and Bieniemy, who knows if that would even be a good fit anyway. The Baker seems like a fiery individual as well too. So maybe that may not work. But it's tough to see them doing anything else with the quarterback position outside of a vet backup type guy.
So Grant Paulson of 106.7 says if the Commanders land Eric Bieniemy, which they did, does it make him more of a free agent destination for offensive players? Should they be more aggressive for a veteran QB to pair with him? This was a topic on their show. I didn't listen to that part of it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I did listen, and he because I was still in the car, and he was talking about like, hey, you've got a premier offensive coordinator. Are quarterbacks in particular going to be more apt to want to work with Bieniemy now that he's here? And certainly you can make that case. It doesn't change that the ownership is still going to be bought, right? Or going to be changed, and that provides uncertainty. I know in Derek Carr's case, he wanted certainty at the stability at the ownership level. So, but it's a reasonable discussion. It's just there's not a lot of choices. You don't have a lot of choices out there in terms of vet QBs.
Yeah, you're right. All right. So Bieniemy as the OC, scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about this move?
It's a 10. 10 out of 10 every time, because Scott Turner was never deserving of the opportunity. Ellie, maybe 2 podcasts ago, you went through Scott Turner's resume, and what did you say? Thin. It was paper thin. There wasn't a whole lot of experience there. Well, this guy's got it. Not only does he have the experience, it's high quality experience. It's having the best offenses, right? It's producing a ton of points. It's the creativity of the play calling of the plays, right? If you don't want to give him credit, or if people don't want to give him credit for calling the plays, he certainly took his time and found those touchdown plays that they scored on in the Super Bowl. Like, that was directly him, and that was his film study that led to that. So that's the type of guy that you're getting at the position, at a coaching position where we struggled at for 3 years. I mean, we had to suffer through incompetence. To me, like, when I have to, watch, coaches or some of these players who just aren't good, that's one of the worst things. It's so frustrating. And now that we've got somebody who's going to bring a level of, mastery to this offensive coordinator position, I'm excited to see it. And I'm excited for our young players, because I think guys like Terry, Jahan, all of our running backs, I think they're going to benefit from things that he can do with them.
I agree. I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at about a 6.5. No, I'm at a 7. I'm leaving my little 3 points to see what happens in this offseason. What do we do with the offensive line? Because if we don't fix that, nobody's going to be successful, right? What are we going to do at tight end? If we don't fix that, you're going to have a hard time being successful in today's NFL. And then what is he doing with the hires around him on the offensive staff? Okay. I need to see those things, and I could be at a 10 based on that. So I'm at a 7 right now, with the potential to turn into 10 by the end of March. Okay. I think, or really, I'll say the end of April, because of draft and blah, blah, blah. But for right now, this is a good move. We got out of the Scott Turner business, and we got into the Eric Bieniemy business. Now, Andy Reid, you got us on McNabb. You better not be playing us here, man. You better not be playing us here. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I want to see what he's going to do with the run game. That hasn't been a strong suit in terms of opportunity, but that's our strong suit. We got athletes on the outside, right? But we know last year our offense was predicated on running the ball. Now, granted, it was a 19-point offense. How's he going to mix and blend the two? I want to see that. Okay, what input is he going to have in player personnel for his offense? That's important. Okay, can the two Martys supply him with assets on the football field that complement what he wants to accomplish? And Brian, I'm gonna let you finish, Kanye style, right? Is there enough time for him to communicate to the GMs what he needs offensively in terms of player personnel, and for them to fulfill that? Because they've already done their scouting. The draft is coming very quickly. Free agency is in a month. Is there enough time to work through that this offseason?
Do you think when it comes to his staff, he's going to certainly bring on some additional people? We saw the other day, I think it may have been yesterday or the day before, wide receiver coach Drew Terrell is has an interview, so he could potentially be leaving. Do you think that it's a complete wipeout of the offensive staff, or you think Ron says, hey, you can hire who you want, but you got to keep this guy and this guy? And I say that because I thought it was, a no-go for whoever the offensive coordinator was that Ron would fire, or, let them pick their assistants, because he didn't do that with Kevin O'Connell. That was why he had gone to Scott Turner. Is Kevin O'Connell wanted to hire his assistants, and Ron said, thanks, but no thanks. And we got stuck with Scott Turner for 3 years. Do you think he says, hey, you got to keep these guys, and then you can hire whoever else, or do you think it's a complete wipeout?
I think he's going to get to do whatever he wants. The only guy I don't want him to be forced to keep is Zampese. If he's forced to keep Zampese, then I'm going to be really disappointed. And not that I really dislike Zampese, but just because it's the most critical position, and that he's being forced to have a coach that coached under the last non-productive offensive system. and give me, and Sam Peasy, I know, was with Cincinnati early on, right? In the Dalton days, I believe. But bro, that was how many years ago?
Yeah, it was a
right?
long time.
So no thanks. All right, let's finish it up with this, Brian. Finish your sentence. For Eric Bieniemy to be successful in Washington, he must
be able to develop a young quarterback. And hey, if it's Sam Howell, which I'd hope, that'd be great. If it's a rookie quarterback, right? He may draft a rookie quarterback. They may draft a rookie quarterback. But I'm a firm believer. Any team that has long-term success, they draft a guy and they build around him. There's no veteran quarterback that's winning 14 games here. It ain't going to happen. It doesn't happen for us, and it doesn't happen. You're not getting Peyton Manning in your free agency or Tom Brady. Like, that pipe dream is over. We've seen it, right? We've seen Carson Wentz come here and get ready. If it's Derek Carr, it's Carson Wentz 2.0. So I want to see him develop a young quarterback. If it's Sam Howell, awesome. If it's a rookie, then even better.
Yeah, you almost feel like this move puts that Anthony Richardson draft pick like out of reach for this team, because I don't think he runs an offense that would be beneficial to Anthony Richardson. Not that he couldn't adapt to it. I don't see it. Not, and again, people think I'm like caping for Anthony. I'm not. I don't want Anthony Richardson necessarily, but I would like an athletic and mobile quarterback, a big athletic mobile quarterback, nonetheless. But I'm intrigued, man. I really want to see what comes out of this. I'm excited because of who he's not. I also want to be more excited because of who he is, and watching him play and not play, but coach and bring these guys together this year. I think it's going to be absolutely a lot of fun to watch it unfold. And your favorite Commanders podcast will be here to bring it to you. Subscribe to the podcast. It literally takes 2 clicks. Somewhere around this image right now, you should see a subscribe button. If you're on your phone listening to us, you should see a subscribe button. Click it, follow the podcast, and then take that link, shine it up real nice, turn it sideways, and stick. No, okay, that's the rocks a little bit there, but email it to a friend. Okay, email it to a friend, tell them about it, text it to them, say, hey, I heard this really great podcast. Who always bring it. You might want to check it out. Let them know something. Brian, we got ourselves a real deal offensive coordinator. The guy has pedigree. The guy has results. The guy has 2 Super Bowls. And the guy was a running back, my favorite position. So I think we're going to be all right. We got to get a few things right. Got to get our quarterback situation worked out one way or another. We got a few pieces to add, and we got to fix our offensive line. And I think we're going to see where we are, man. We could really run with the big dogs with this one.
Yeah, no, this has the makings of a good foundation for a real NFL offense, not the JV stuff that we were doing the last couple of years. We have the potential now. Potential doesn't mean anything. We've got to go out and we've got to put the things behind it. Like you said, build the offensive line, decide, right? Like all the speculation. Look, if it's Sam Howell, let it be known it's Sam Howell and move forward with it. Build it around him. If it's a rookie, build it around the rookie. Get what you need. Figure that out. But we have somebody legitimate calling the offense, designing the offense. I think is even more important is that we won't. There were too many times we were just out schemed right from the start. Like it was just too easy for the defense to figure out. So this is a great start. There's more to be done, and definitely check out. Make sure you subscribe to also the YouTube channel. I know Eric's going to have a video. I think Ellie's going to do another video. We've got stuff there, and on the website, Commanders247.com. We've got articles, interviews, all kinds of things. We just did an interview with Commanders running back Jonathan Williams. Go check that one out because that was pretty cool. He gives you some insight into a couple of players and coaches as well. And I'm excited, man.
We don't miss on this podcast. So go watch any episode. You'll understand. Eric Bieniemy is your offensive coordinator. Brian, points per game prediction on our way out. How many points per game are we going to score in 2023?
27.5.
Whoa, boy. You're going all the way to the top, man. I'm going to say 24. I'm going to say 24. We're going to figure that out. And that would put us in a lot better position. 24 points per game. All right. Washington Commanders fans, thank you for checking us out. Subscribe to the podcast. We will see you on the flip side. Peace.